Bryan Osbourne from Answers in Genesis is today going to explain to us everything that we might want to know about Noah and his ark. He's going to concentrate on the area of dinosaurs. So I'm glad that you're all here to join me. My channel is supported by an amazing group of Patreons. Thank you guys. Massive thanks to my amazing patrons, including new patrons Chris Kelling and David Cooley, John Bunker, Sky Wizardless, and my newest patron TC Lucas. Thank you each and every one of you. So, Mr. Bryan Osbourne, you better give us your spiel. Tell us all about Noah and his ark.
That pairs of all creatures with the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. That would actually include dinosaurs.
You do know that the dinosaurs died around 65 million years ago?
And some say, wait a minute, dinosaurs on the ark? How could Noah fit them on the ark? Matter of fact, how could Noah fit all of those animals on the ark?
Well, those are good questions as well. I can't wait to hear the answer.
So let me answer the bigger question. We'll talk about dinosaurs in the midst of that answer. When someone asks you that question, there are two main questions we should push back with.
Or you could just provide answers.
The first question should be this. When someone asks you how to get the animals onto the ark, we should say, first, well, how big was the ark?
Well, it's your religion and your belief. You tell us.
Second question, how many animals did Noah actually take on the ark? Answer those two questions, and this answer really isn't that hard.
Oh, isn't it? Well, I look forward to your easy explanation.
So first, how big was the ark? Do you think it looked more like A or B?
Well, I presume it's B, but based on evidence, it's just as likely to be A.
Thank you for saying B, all right? Why do so many arks look like this in our children's books, Sunday school curriculums, Bible studies, and so forth? They present Noah's Ark as an overloaded bathtub. Giraffes always sticking out the top, right?
Oh yes, the giraffes, with the long necks with the laryngeal nerve that helps prove evolution.
And I know these pictures are meant to be cute for kids, but kids are so impressionable. You show a kid this picture, does that tell that kid Noah's Ark and flood, real event or fairy tale?
Yep, that's it. Get them young and indoctrinate them.
Fairy tale. And we're actually reinforcing a secular idea when we do this, whether we mean to or not. No, show them the real ark. It was over 500 feet long and 85 feet wide and 50 feet tall with 3 levels. It's a huge ship, a huge vessel.
Show them the real ark. So, can they go visit it? Have we got any pictures of it? Or have we just got a bit of a description in a 2,000-year-old collection of stories?
The dimensions give you the proportions equal to mostly a modern-day cargo ship with the right balance of strength and comfort stability you would need during a global flood. Capacity equal to roughly 500 railroad stock cars, like an 8-mile-long train. Huge, huge ship.
Well, here is looking down a corridor on a modern tanker in a storm. The ship's hull is bending and flexing. It's designed to do that, but you'll have a problem with a wooden built ship doing that. Now, you said that the ark was about 500 feet long and 80 feet wide. Well, this picture is of the USS Wyoming, which is the largest confirmed wooden ship ever built, and that was 450 feet long, so that's 50 shorter, and 50 feet wide, 30 feet narrower. It was so long that in heavy seas, with the bending and flexing of the ship, water would get in, and it had to use pumps to keep her relatively free of water. She lasted 15 years before she foundered, with a loss of all hands. So I'd be most impressed if some desert farmers managed to build a ship bigger than this, which was manufactured by a proper firm of shipwrights, with all the technology available in the early 1900s.
But was it big enough? How many animals did he take? Well, the Bible's clear. He took only land-dwelling, air-breathing animals onto the ark. No fish on the ark. Plenty of water outside the boat.
You complete smeghead. So all the fish died then? Because freshwater fish, apart from a few brackish water species, freshwater fish would not be able to cope with the saltier water. And the marine fish couldn't cope, or most couldn't cope, with the lowered salinity. You've just added so many tens or hundreds of feet of water to the world's oceans so it floods all the land. So you have just dropped the salinity an incredible amount, so killing all the fish. And the fish are comparatively hardy. When you talk about things like corals, just a minute change in salinity can affect them. A larger change will kill them. So, as I said, you've just lost all the fish, as well as all the vegetation on the land and all the vegetation in the sea.
All right? No whales, no dolphins, no jellyfish on the ark. Also, it makes good sense that he would bring young adults, or God would bring to Noah young adults. We'll get to that here in a minute. And then maybe the most important issue of all, where so many people miss this, is the Bible's clear Noah took 2 of each kind onto the ark.
Ah, yes. The biblical idea of a kind, which consists of many, many species, most of which would not be able to interbreed.
Not 2 of each species, 2 of each kind. And the word kind, for the most part, in the Bible is equal to about the family level of modern day classification. So what that simply means is this. Noah did not take 400 pairs of dogs with him on the ark. He most likely never saw a chihuahua or a poodle in his life.
Well, that's fine. So you've got 2 dogs. So over the period since the flood, that means that we've managed to breed every one of the breeds we have today, from chihuahuas to Great Danes, and also things like wolves and coyotes. They all came from 1 pair of dogs on the ark just a few thousand years ago.
He took 2 of the dog kind, 2 of the elephant kind, 2 too many of the cat kind, but 2 of the basic kinds of animals on the ark. Snuck that in there, all right?
Not impressed.
And some will say, but hey, aren't there just too many variations of dinosaurs? Aren't there hundreds, even thousands of variations of dinosaurs? Well, just like there are many variations of the dog kind, but just the basic kind. The same thing with cats and horses and so forth. You have a similar thing with dinosaurs.
Do you not see a bit of a problem here? You guys have always had an issue with evolution, saying that you can't gain information. We're talking about evolution over millions and millions of years. You're talking about making every single species on Earth from only a handful of individual animals, from grizzly bears to polar bears, from emus to penguins, and that's all happened in just a few thousand years. And all the polar bears happen to go to the poles. All the emus happen to live in one area, marmosets in another. Do you not see a problem with this?
There are many variations of the Ceratopsia kind, but just the basic kind. There are many variations of the sauropod kind, but just the basic kind. There are around 60 to at most 80 dinosaur kinds.
This is even worse. So now you've got a few kinds of dinosaur breeding after the flood into many, many species of dinosaur, then dying off and getting themselves buried in rock millions of years old. How did that happen then?
And some would say, okay, not that many, but I mean, come on. Really?
Yeah, come on, really?
And that leads to a very common misconception. Do you realize that the average size of a dinosaur is equal to that of a bison, like a really big cow? And actually, some were as small as chickens. It's true.
But it's not just the size of them that's the problem. What the hell are they going to eat? Many creatures are carnivores. They require meat to to live. They won't get all their relevant goodness just from a vegetarian diet. So what are they going to eat? Unless you stocked up on prey animals as well.
But as it turns out, we know that all dinosaurs started off small. You say, how do you know all? Well, because they hatched from eggs. And the biggest an egg can get is about the size of a football. Because the bigger the egg gets, the thicker the shell's got to be to support its own weight. But the shell can't get too thick because then oxygen can't get through to keep the creature alive.
Well, that's true. Everything starts off small, and there is a limit on egg size for the reasons you said.
God's bringing the animals to Noah. So I'm pretty sure God has it figured out. You don't have to bring the biggest ones.
So, exactly how did the animals get to the Middle East? How did marsupials, such as kangaroos, get there? What about sloths? Would have taken them quite a time, and I'm not sure how they'd have coped with swimming the Atlantic. They live in Central and South America. That's a hell of a trip for an animal that spends most of his life asleep.
And it's reasonable to bet that God brought young adults to Noah for many good practical reasons. You bring young adults because they're smaller, especially the bigger animals.
So now you're talking young animals. What about panda bears? They live almost entirely, I think it's 99% of their diet is bamboo. Is there much bamboo growing around in the Middle East for them to eat? And what about the entire journey to get there?
And just be sure there's a pink one and a blue one. That's important later.
So the plan is decimate the planet of all vegetation. Don't worry about fish and other aqualife. Limit every kind of animal to just 2 individuals. So leaving you with an absolute minimum genetic variation. Don't worry about inbreeding. And yet try to make massive populations with numerous species in just a few thousand years. You cannot be serious. I cannot believe that there is a grown adult today who could actually believe this.
And young ones, they will live longer after the flood to produce more offspring to refill the earth. And that's the whole reason you're taking them to begin with. So a lot of good reasons to take the younger adults. And then how many were there in total? We did a ton of research on this, and we have all this, of course, at the Ark Encounter here at the museum as well. But a max number of kinds that Noah would need.
Ah, the Ark Encounter. We'll come back to that in a minute.
To account for all the variation we see today and in the fossil record, we roughly around 1,400 total kinds. Multiply by 2, 7 or 14 is some. And in a max worst case scenario, you will need roughly 6,700 total individual animals on the Ark.
Ah, some maths, eh? Let me do the same. Now you just said there were around 6,700 individual animals on the Ark. Well, today there are 8.7 million species alive in the world. Your website says that the biblical flood was 4,359 years ago. Let's call it 4,400. Let's be generous. That means those individual animals would have to be reproducing and making new species at a rate of 1,977 species each and every year. That's 5.4 new species a day. And that doesn't include the extinct species. And what about the fact that you guys always deny evolution because we've never seen a new species be created? Which incidentally is wrong.
And that number fits very comfortably in that large ship. No problem at all. And that would include the dinosaurs. No problem at all.
No problem at all. Well, I think I might have pointed out one or two. But let's have a look at this Ark Encounter. The Ark Encounter is in Grant County, Kentucky, and is run by Answers in Genesis. It costs millions and millions and millions, and required over 1,000 craftsmen to build. And that was without using all wooden construction techniques. They had to use steel fastenings as well. Look how many boards there are. If this was going to be seaworthy, the whole lot would have to be waterproofed. And as we saw on the video earlier, with all the flexing, you're going to get water seeping or dribbling in all over the place. So Noah and his family would be rather busy bailing out constantly. And that's without worrying about feeding the animals or mucking them out. So instead of a massive workforce of experienced craftsmen, you've got Noah and his family, and maybe a few mates who didn't get included on the trip. And they managed to build this ark, did they? And just where would they have got all this wood? And just how could they have afforded it? Do you never stop and think about this critically? Do you honestly think this is real? And can you really justify spending millions and millions of dollars building this monstrosity instead of perhaps helping people? All of this is meaningless anyway. The biblical flood myth is extremely similar to the Gilgamesh flood myth from before, and that to the Sumerian flood myth before that. In Gilgamesh flood myth, the ark ended up stuck on a mountain, and the hero released a dove, which came back, and then a swallow, which came back, and finally a raven, which didn't return. And then the animals were sent out. I wonder where we've heard that before. Anyway, I hope everyone's enjoyed this. I have, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. If you haven't already, don't forget to like this video. And if you're not yet a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Just click Mini-Me down in the corner and remember to hit the notification bell. Look forward to seeing you again. Stay sensible.
Shut up and sit down.